Welcome to the Rational Egoist. I'm your host, Michael Leibowitz, and I love a good redemption story. The idea of somebody turning their whole life around is very big in my book because I understand very well the type of effort it takes, the self-awareness and the struggle. And today's guest went from being somebody who did time in prison to being a life coach, a motivational speaker, a mentor, and he's going to share a story with us today, and I'm looking forward to it. Michaelangelo Casanova, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So at the beginning, just tell us a little bit about your early life. I mean, your young years as a kid growing up. Where'd you grow up? What was your experience? What was it like?
So, like my first years were birthed in hell. You know, people say that, but I lived it. I had a stepfather that used to beat my brothers and I viciously and savagely. Not just some beatings, I mean kicks and punch. He would punch me so hard that every time he hit me, I'd piss my pants, whatever he blow, boom, boom. And I'm a kid, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it started, with the verbal, which is the program, right? 0 to 7, right? Aristotle, the Jesuits say, give me a child to the age of 7, and I will show you the foundations of man, which is very, very true because those developmental years, from 0 to 7, are integral. You have to get it right. They have to be brought in with love and understanding and peace in order for you to be that type of individual. And if you're not, you become exactly what they say you are and what you're supposed to be. So, yeah, he used to just brutally beat us. And the beatings come. I'm a boxer. I used to box as a kid. So after a while, it wasn't the beatings. It was the mental stuff that I couldn't get out of my head. You could get beat. You can get over that. Once I learned how to box, I was like, okay, let's all right. This is whatever. So, but I could never get out of the way of my own self. I always had these things. Whenever I would get to a certain place, I'd start self-sabotaging. Start with the disbelief. Start playing. You're no good. You're a piece of shit. You'll never be nothing. You fucking stupid idiot. All that stuff would play, and it would get the best of me. And it did up to only a few years ago, and then I just got it. But my childhood was brutal, man. And people can say that, and I hear it all the time. And then I'll ask them about, so what happened? And they're like, oh, well, my father smacked me a couple times, and I used to get punched in the mouth, in the back of my head. I got hit with a tire iron for that because my brothers, he was trying to teach me how to change a tire, and my brothers are all playing around. So who the hell wants to change a tire? So I was looking at him. He throws the tire iron, hits me in the back. Pay attention, you dumb mother. It was brutal, man. And it was like it would go on for like 300 days out of the year.
Now, this is when you're in elementary school. So yeah. What is happening to you in school, both academically and behaviorally? What is going on? And are the teachers noticing?
They didn't care back then. They didn't care, It's not like today. You say something, we got the police, everybody goes. So, but we were always taught, whatever goes on in the house, you be quiet. That's the old school way, right? You don't talk about what's going on in your house. I was superlatively intelligent. I still am. I got 127 IQ. I always would pass tests, do stuff. So they wouldn't.
Can I tell you something funny?
Yeah.
The last IQ test I took was a Mensa test. That's exactly my score, 127.
That's awesome. Brothers and kindred.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers and kindred. So, yeah, school was good. I loved school. I was always charismatic. I was fun. You wouldn't be able to tell. I would have bruises on me, but they're usually on my back, my thighs, stuff like that. He used to line us up in a row and just beat us, whip us with these belts. And we just sit there watching our brothers get beat. You'd be the next in line. It was just the brutality. It was the mental part of it. It was like he was just vicious, And his words, those are the ones that's what held me back for so long,
And were you at this time? Are you maintaining good grades?
Yeah.
Like I hated school. My whole life I hated school.
Yeah, I like school.
Did you really? So you were actually doing good in school, and that kind of helps keep up the mirage, right?
Yeah.
Because you're actually doing well. So when do you start misbehaving?
So my mother found him in bed with another woman at the age of 13. And then he just kicked us all out of the house. No place to go. We were all spread out. I went to foster care. Um, my mother went to a mental institution, and we were all spread out. And that's when that's where I just it was over after that. The point of no return, the Rubicon, right? The Rubicon.
Yeah, yeah. And how old are you when you start getting into actual criminal behavior?
13, right after that. No, before that, like 10 years old, I got caught spray painting on the wall.
Yeah.
Boy, the beating I got from that. Jeez.
So at some point you're breaking the law. What kind of friends are you now attracting? I'm talking about in your mid to late teens. Who did you gravitate towards?
So kids that I felt were like me, because even though I did good, I didn't think I was good. I always thought I was a piece of shit. So you gravitate towards that, right? Your own kind. So I'm hanging out with kids that get in trouble, then you start getting in trouble, and it's where I find like those guys. It's like that's where the love that I was missing with these guys. It's like, yeah, let's go. We have a camaraderie. Yeah, let's go do something crazy. We're all tight.
And you spent 13 years in prison, right?
Yes.
So at what point, what happened? How do you end up in prison? How old are you when this happens?
Well, they made a movie about me called The Bristol Boys. You can see that. Bristol Boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I acted in another movie. Allegedly, we were laundering our drug money through the movie industry. But I started selling drugs at like 17. This is what happened. My mother got arrested for DWI. I was like her third one. She ends up going to jail. She leaves money with her boyfriend to pay the bills. He smokes it up in crack, right? So we have nothing. So I went to the neighborhood drug dealer and said, hey, listen, I need money. Can you guys help us? He said, yeah, no problem. He said, but you got to get rid of this stuff for us. I said, I'll take care of it now. That's how it goes. The proverbial story, I wanted to be a police officer.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to do, man. And boy, did I straight to the other side. But I wanted to be like the chief. You know what I mean? I can't just stand. I always want to be better, But yeah. But everything happens for a reason, I believe. So
what was prison like when you first get there? You're looking around, you're in prison, because I'm big on I don't want to get too much into my views on prison just yet, because I want to get your perspective.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? What level of security were you in? What was the prison like? How were the staff, the other inmates, everything?
I went through them all. I fight all the time. I box, so I'm telling you guys got the wrong white boy today, bro. The wrong way. So I'd always be fighting. So I'd go up and down. I've been in mall. I've been in almost every single one except like the pedophile one and the other one. There's two that I haven't been in. But I used to get transferred all the time. I'd fight all the time. Prison, it was, at first I walk in there, I was like, holy shit, man. And all you think about is the movies, bro. Someone try to rape me. You know what I mean? It's like, the shit that they say in prison that in Connecticut jails don't happen. You know what I mean? I've never heard of a story of that. Never seen it. But, you're thinking all these things. You just shut your mouth and you just listen, and observe, obviously. You pick up quick. You know how it is when something's going down. The energy is, the negativity is so bad, like when something's about to go down.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because from reading about prisons elsewhere, when I first went to jail, the big line was back in the day. Everything was back in the day. You wouldn't do this. Back in the day, it didn't happen. Yeah. But I knew an old guy who was in prison back in the day, and he told them, you're full of shit. It was never like you're saying it is.
Yeah.
And then they would say, well, in other states. But from what I've read, by and large, it's the same everywhere. And there's a virtual what's the word I'm looking for? Industry now, where people get, they do videos about how prison is this and prison is that. And it's just, it's bullshit. Prison, I mean, there's a lot of gossip, that goes on. And it's not to say it's not ever dangerous. Of course it is. You're surrounded by violent criminals. It's going to get that way. When you see this staff, did the staff's behavior surprise you? Because I know it surprised me.
Yeah, I feel like it's the biggest sham for taking people's taxpayers' money. I think they don't do shit. There's no rehabilitation. They lie to the society of what's really going on. Prison, aside of business cards, it's the second biggest scam in the world. You know what I mean?
My friend, who happens to be from Bristol, wrote a book called Sham about the prison system. Brent McCall. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I know Brent. I grew up with Brent. Brent grew up in prison when a kid.
Yeah, that's Brent on my cup.
Yeah, I said.
But
Sister Penny's awesome.
yeah, he and I wrote a book together, Down the Rabbit Hole: How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime, and then we got separated, and he wrote another book called Sham. And our contention is basically that prison, by and large, the four things they're supposed to do is incapacitate, punish, deter, and rehabilitate. But by and large, they just incapacitate. They're just warehouses. Exactly. Because it's not even, I mean, losing your liberty is a punishment. But if you want to go to prison, right, and just gamble, sell your drugs, do your drugs, whatever, you can do that. And for the most part, get away with it. Mm-hmm. Right. That's just, that's the way it is. But some people, very few, actually decide to change. A lot of people are good at putting on a show like they're changing, but very few actually do it. Very few actually put in the work. I happen to be fortunate in that in 2001, I met Brent, and Brent and I became fast friends. In 2003, maybe 2004, we both decided at about the same time, 2004 it must have been, that we were going to turn our lives around. And then we got into the cell together in 2007. We were cellmates for 11 years. And I had somebody there with me to hold me accountable, that when we were reading books together, we would bounce the ideas off of each other. When I would do wrong, he would tell me, and vice versa. And I can't imagine how hard it would be without having that, because the broader culture in prison is against changing. They'll make fun of you. Oh, you want to do the right thing now. The staff will make fun of you. It's not an easy task. So I'm just wondering, at what point in your sentence did you decide to turn your life around? And what steps did you take? What did you do? How did you go about it?
So I was fortunate enough to have a support group. My daughter's grandfather, phenomenal. He's like my dad, and I still have him to this day. So there was this old guy from New Haven, Joe Manginelli, I think it was his name. And he was telling me about Dostoevsky and Ayn Rand. And I was like, really? So I just started reading all these books, and he put it on. And I started realizing that, I'm responsible for my actions. I'm responsible. Every fucking choice I made got me to right here. If I could just curb it. But understanding my brain. Okay, so the brain is like a Microsoft program, right? Microsoft program doesn't deviate from a Microsoft program, right? It doesn't go. Safari doesn't deviate from Safari. So whatever you put into the brain, the human brain, you're going to get in those 0 to 7. So I could start doing good. I could start doing good, and then when I got to the proverbial fork in the road, I was just going the same place I was going before. It took therapy. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I am now, because people to call you like Brett was doing for you. They call you on your bullshit. Bro, listen, that's not true. It's not true. Think about it. Look at it. So when I got in there, I wanted to change immediately. So I started reading the books, doing things, working out, getting in shape. I knew it was mind, body, and spirit, and I got all those. And then I got out on parole, and none of that shit went right out the window. Then came back in. I said, okay, going to do it. I taught myself how to read, write, and speak Spanish fluently, conversationally. I'd be in there for 8 hours a day studying books, basic Spanish. And when I tell you I learned Spanish, I'm not telling you I just learned Spanish. I speak Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I was doing all these feats. Wow, I taught myself how to speak Spanish. Wow, I went from 250 pounds to 190. Wow, I can do this stuff. I can do it. What he's telling me is not true. And that's when I started learning. When what he was telling me is not true. That's his bullshit. That's his garbage. But when you program something, you can unprogram it, but you have to do it consciously. You have to be aware. You have to start putting other stuff into your head. Listen, what he told me is wrong. This is what I am. This is what I am. And you got to put it in 100,000 times. When I started reading the Bible in John 10, 30, 35, when he started stoning Jesus. And I was wild with all this stuff, He started stoning Jesus. He says, well, what are you stoning me for? Have you not seen my works? And he said, well, we don't stone you for your works. We stone you for blasphemy. He goes, blasphemy how? And he goes, well, because you be a man, you claim you are God. And he said, is it not written? I said, ye are gods. And what is written cannot be begotten, and the scripture cannot be changed. Well, I fell in love with that scripture. and then no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So all that stuff he was killing me. His weapons were of mass destruction. So I just had to start like, it's like this, you know what, in this box, but it was like slow and just trying to rip this shit out of my head, man. And every day and just questioning myself and crying and what the fuck and why am I like this? And you know what I mean? And bro, I went through it, man. I went through the flames, like people say, but I'm a phoenix. I'm building $1 billion company right now. I'm not even joking.
Awesome.
It's really going to be. I was just valued at $2.2 million, and I just,
nice. I like what you had to say, because the problem with the computer analogy, right? And I agree with you to an extent, but the problem with it is computers can't deprogram themselves and reprogram themselves. Yeah. But you went on to explain the very process by which we can do that, and it has to be an intentional act. Exactly. And just deciding. You can't just say one day, you know what, I want to stop committing crimes, and now you're going to be responsible, because we don't know anything about being responsible.
Exactly.
We don't know anything about good self-esteem, or how to behave nonviolently, how to not care about what other people are thinking of us. We have to learn all that. And like you talked about what you were told, and I remember, I had a lot of neglect as a kid. My mother overdosed, and I had this great fear that she would die, and my parents were both heroin addicts. And in 2000, I think 6 or 7, I realized that a large part of my problems had to do with my insecurities and fear of abandonment, combined with my values of violence and short temper and things like that. And I realized that I felt I was unworthy of love. I felt everybody was going to leave me, and I projected that onto other people. So I decided I had to fix that. And like you just said, every night before bed, I would tell myself, you know what? My parents' neglect of me had nothing to do with me. It had to do with them. That was their problem, not mine. And I had to tell myself, you know what? That doesn't make me unlovable. And just because my parents acted that way doesn't mean everybody else is going to act that way. And even if people do leave, I can take it. But it took every night drilling that into my head over and over and over again. And I can still at times feel that tug, that it's still there. I just know better now than to let it get to me. And then, I've told this story on this show and other places. While I was working on that abandonment, my mother committed suicide, which was like the ultimate abandonment while I was in prison. But it then occurred to me, how can I learn from this? And I thought, you know what, if I could take this, I could take anything. But that's what it's about. You have to keep learning and keep going. And you're going to fall, but you have to get back up. You can't use the fall as the excuse, right? So eventually now, and you mentioned, it's funny, you mentioned Ayn Rand. I got Atlas Shrugged, right?
Yeah, that's what I read that 3 times.
Yeah, right on the desk here. But at some point, the stuff does stick for you, right? And you actually decide to change. Now, first of all, how long have you been out now? In the very last time you were released?
2017.
So 8 years, right? That's good. Congratulations on that. Yeah. And when do you decide that you want to go into mentoring and life coaching? And what steps did you take so that you could accomplish that?
So I just feel like not too many people know how to get out of their shit. Bro, it was so hard. And I can sit here and talk to you, but people don't know the hours and the pain and the crying and the Jesus, why this happened to me. They don't understand. And if you're not willing to dive into that, you're not going to fucking succeed. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to. My hair's standing up right now. You have to fight, man. You got to fight. If I'm any kind of boxer, I have to fight. And that boxing was good for me. It was good for me because you could beat the shit out of me. It doesn't make it. It doesn't. I don't care. You know what I mean? I just keep going. So I learned that. Got that from my father. So I have to tell you this. I understood that everything happens for a reason. And this is the most valuable thing I'm going to tell you today. I understand that everything happens for a reason. One time I was sitting in my prison cell and crying to God and I say, listen, why the fuck are you putting me in jail? You know this is what happened to me. Why do I have to keep going to jail? If you know that this is how I was trained, this is how it was programmed, why do you keep going to jail? Why can't you help me? Why can't you push me? Why did I have to be abused? Why did I have to do this? Bro, I'm going to tell you this. I was praying. I said, God, why do I have to be here, man? Why was I abused? Why couldn't I just have someone who just gave me love? Because I'm full of love, you know what I mean? But in the same way, scared of it, the same way as you. So I said, then Then a calm just came, Mike. A calm came by and it said, because you're going to be the greatest salesman in the world. Bro, and then it started showing how my stepfather would come in and I'd have to read them to see if I was getting beat that day. You know what I mean? Then it would show me how I was able to talk my way out of things. All because this guy beat me and I had to be able to quick think of, this is why I'm the number one salesman. I worked in the World Trade Center, a new one, became the number one salesman in 4 days. You know what I mean? I changed their whole thing. And they gave me a $30,000 cash bonus. Boom, came to my desk and dropped it. I rewrote the pitch for them. This is the thing, guys. This is primordial. I got something that's better. It increased the sales by $200,000 a month. You know? So once I can get out of the way of like all that destruction, you know, a bomb goes off and you're still in the fucking smoke and there's shrapnel everywhere. But as soon as you can understand why that bomb went off, and then you come out and then you walk out of the woods or you walk out of the dust, bro. And it's just understanding that these things were gifts. They weren't torments like we think they were. They weren't torturous like we think they are. At the time, yes, they were. But if you could sit back and contemplate, this happened for this reason, this way, and the answers come to you. You know, it comes to you. And a couple times that stuff came to me. You know, but that was like the most powerful, most moving. So then I just started reading books on philosophy, psychology. I read 235 books. You know what I mean? In 13 years, 15 years. I got a library right there. It's humongous. It's all sales and psychology. And I read every single book in there. I still buy books. Right now, I'm reading The Science of Being Great. It's a really good one. But that's the thing, Mike. It's once you have to understand that these were gifts. and who the hell thinks a bee sting's a gift, right? But they were gifts. They were gifts. You know, take the example of those people down in South America with those ants, the fire ants that are poisonous. Well, when they're small, when the kids are small, when they go into manhood, before they can go into the forest, they have to put these mitts on with honey, and these fucking things bite and poison their kids. And when they come out, their hands are like this big, but they never get poisoned again by the ants after that. You understand? So that's what happened. I had to put those ant mitts on, deal with this stuff, and now I'm better. And I'm not telling you I'm 100%. You know, I'm not a saint by any means. I like to have fun like the next guy. I just took a vacation. I was in Portsmouth, cigar lounge, drinking some bourbon and having a great time. But I could do it. And here's the other thing. I'm super charismatic. Funny everywhere I go, bro. Everywhere I go, my fiance, she's like, you are so crazy. And just like everybody loves me, you know? So these are the things that I know that it was another lie to me. Oh, you'll never be nothing. Nobody loves you. That's what he's telling me all the time. Everywhere I go, everyone loves me. They know it. I leave an indelible impression. And I know, and I thank my stepfather for that, because I used to have to talk my way out of it. Now I can talk to people. And I was talking to a guy who's a hedge fund guy down in Miami. I was talking to another guy who owns a cigar lounge up here. And it was just so much fun. And it was just amazing. And one other thing, love. I met somebody who loves me for me. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's great. You know, you talked about you have to be willing to go through it. And I often think of it as just because you ignore it doesn't make it go away. It's like the check engine light on the car. You know, you just ignore it and you the problem doesn't disappear. And it's the same thing with the psychological problems. We actually have to deal with them. There's really no alternative. I mean, unless you just want to keep getting the same shit over and over and over, you know. Did you read the book? It came to my mind when you said Greatest Salesman. Did you read that book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, by any chance, by Og Mandino?
Yeah, Og Mandino. Yeah, I got a bunch of Og Mandino books.
Yeah, he's great. So you at some point you decide you're going to become a life coach. So what was your training like for that? I know you went to Yale. So what happened? How did you do that? How did you go about getting into it?
So I took a course in London. It was online, because there's no you don't need any certifications here in the United States of America. But I figured it looked good. Then I took a course from Yale, The Science of Wellbeing. Let me tell you about an amazing school, bro. If you pay for school to go anywhere else, you're not getting an education. The stuff that they teach you is so advanced, it's insane. Like I said, I've read hundreds of psychology books, and I got all new stuff from Yale in 16 weeks. 16 weeks ago, all new. What's up, bro? all new stuff. So yeah, that's why they're so successful. That's why they start at $80,000 when you graduate, because they teach. Nobody else gets the true education. That's another topic we can talk about. But yeah, so I just wanted to help people. I wanted people to say, man, you can get through this. You don't have to harbor this. You don't have to fail. I call it failure, not failure. You know what I mean? You fall and get back up, man. You fall 7, get up 8. It's that easy, you know? But yeah, so I just want to help people. I wanted to help kids. I talk with kids today. I talk with children who, I mean, they're in 8th, 9th, 10. Kids that get in trouble, Wheeler Clinic. I talk with these guys and I say, listen, guys, we've all had the same upbringing. Probably not lack of love, because that's what happens. Bro, it's lack of love. Because if you look statistically at people who were raised in loving families, nothing happens to them. Nothing happens to them. The kids are great. Or here's another example. Kids that are homeschooled end up being the best kids ever. Take a look at that. Read the studies on that. But yeah, I just wanted to help people, Mike. Because I don't want people to be trapped in that stuff. I'm 52 years old, man. It took me a long, long, long time. But like the Bible says, if you change, all those things will be given back to you tenfold. You know, and I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it now. And I believe in a lot of that stuff. You know, it's not my go-to by any means. My mind is my go-to. Meditation is my go-to. You know, because the answers are always there. And I just want people to understand that. I want kids to know that there's a way out. And it's hard because these parents nowadays, I mean, you take a look around, Mike. I mean, I hired 22 people. Not one of them did anything. So it's tough. It's tough, man. So yeah, the reason why I got into it is I want to help people change. I can't change everybody, but if I can give them one thing that they can hear, you know, one thing that they hear, like, oh, that turned the light on, that was it.
So what is your business now? What do you do? What's a day in your life?
So I have people call me and I have to sort out their problems, right? I have to help them. It's kind of frustrating to me that I have to tell grown people what to do, but I understand. But I give more of like a psychology. So, and but it's, you know, don't fuck around. This is not the way it's going. Stop being a pussy. And that's how I talk to my clients. You know what I mean? I'm strong. I'm hard on them and they like it. Some like it. I've never had anybody quit. I tell them in the beginning and I tell them on my paper, listen, I'm going to talk to you any way I want. And I'm going to talk to the field that you have to do it. You know, don't make excuses for yourself. Take accountability because I won't hear it. I'll call you out on it in a second. And that's it. That's what I do. When I'm talking with the kids, I'm a little bit more easy. Listen, guys, you know, you got to love yourself and you got to believe in yourself. I know it's hard when you come from families that don't have that, but you have to make it yourself. If you guys ever think about meditation, I tell them, oh, what's that? And I'll give them names of books so they can meditate and, you know, learn how to do it, or videos on YouTube, you know, just try to help them. Because I feel like kids are still lost. And when I was a kid at 15, 16, man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I had all the answers. Just look at my criminal record.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just a little bit harder to get to these guys, you know. I like working with people who are like 21 to 26. I feel like that's the time where they're like, all right, yeah.
So what is it? Not financially. I mean, obviously, you know, you're doing well and your plan is to do very well financially. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are you hoping to have accomplished?
So 10 years from now, I bought 15 acres of land in New Hampshire. I want to have a farm up there, right? So for 10 years, I want to be able to retire from this company because it's residual income and then just go around talking to people. I want to be the greatest salesman in the world. You know what I mean? Because that goes on over. But I have to tell you this. With this company right now, when I tell you it's booming, Mike, next year by June, I'll be making $1 million a month. So nice. My goal is to open up a Casanova Academy. And it's going to take troubled kids, put them in a private school that's just as good as Harvard and Yale, because all the professors I'll take from them. And once I do that, I want to train these kids to be politicians, right? I want to train them to be politicians, but Constitution-loving politicians. So there's only 2 things you can become in our school. A lawyer. Yes. Yes. Look at this. We the people. That's nice, huh? So they only can be lawyers or politicians. That's what we're going to do it. They're all going to be able to pass the bar by 12th grade, right? So we're going to do it. We're going to teach them love. They're going to take psychology. They're going to take therapy. We're going to teach them love and how to love themselves. We're going to have therapy with their family when their family comes up. I want to start with like 21 kids and just see what we can do, man. I want to make a change in the world. This world is crazy, and I want to make a change. I want to raise kids that believe in themselves. They're going to box. They're going to do everything to make them strong. Everything they're going to do. We'll have a boxing gym. That's the only, you'll be able to box and basketball. It's about the only two sports we'll have. You know what I mean? Then psychology, then therapy, then meditation, and then just talking to you guys. And then all my professors will get the threat. If you fucking hurt one of these kids, we'll beat you senseless. and you may disappear. But that's because these kids have been hurt too much. Don't let me hear you talking derogatorily to them. Talk to them with love. And that's I've been thinking about that for years. I have everything written down in my books about this school. And that's my goal. That's my legacy. I don't care about the money, Mike. I've had money my whole life. I stole drugs. I used to make $750,000 a year every year. I had money. I just want to help people. Imagine being able to help 10 people to become the greatest people in the world who can make decisions, good decisions for us, to change stuff back to the Constitution and what it used to be, because that's the way we're supposed to live.
So if say you got a 19, 20-year-old dude comes to you, he's living the criminal lifestyle, probably on his way to prison, and he asks you for advice, and you can take everything you've learned from your early childhood of being abused through everything you put into becoming a better person, all that, and you had to tell this guy one thing that you would like to leave with him that you were hoping would help him, or one thing that's necessary for him to do if he's going to turn around. What would you tell him?
Everything you were taught was a lie. Everything you were taught was a lie. Every word ever told you, uttered to you was a lie. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of peace. You're worthy of happiness. You can do it. And I will send you all the books when you go to prison. But you have to be willing to take a shot on yourself. You take shots at all the other things, all your friends to guide you into bad things. Take a shot on you, Mike. You.
See, to me, the most important thing that the kernel, I guess, the first thing that made the biggest difference was understanding that I'm responsible, right? You said it earlier. Once I understood that I was responsible for my life, everything changed, because now I could move forward and take responsibility to get better things, to do better, to be better. As long as I kept holding on and blaming my parents for everything, there's no way to change, because that's already in the past. I can't switch that, right? I had to take responsibility for my own actions, for my own life, for my own outcomes. How important was that to you to learn and to take responsibility for who you are and what you do?
That was amazing. That was the Inipakio moment. Once I had to learn, listen, I'm responsible for everything, then it was just easier to change, because I was too busy blaming everybody else, right? And I feel like I had a valid reason to blame other people, right? But once I learned that everything happens for a reason, and it's true. When people used to tell me, I'd be like, shut the fuck up with that bullshit. What do you mean everything? So you think me getting beat, well, there was a reason for that? And there was, right? To come into myself. So if we're here for an experience, if we believe in reincarnation, then I'm finally back on track. It took me a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Everything happens for a reason. And once I learned that, I said, okay, let me start taking responsibility for myself. Let me start taking accountability. Let me start looking at it. I might be the problem. Hold on, let me delve into this a little bit more. Once I realized that I was the problem, and I can't blame anything, that was it. At some point, you got to take accountability. You have to realize, hey, you're a fucking asshole. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. The shit hasn't been working. It's time for a change. Once you do that, it's like, wow, everything changes for you, man. And I feel like we're all the same. I feel like we have different experiences, but the way to come back from it is all the same. It's love, Mike. I can't express that to you. This woman changed my life. She was here's a funny story. Not funny. When we first met, she had stayed at my house, and her friends take her to buy houses because she sees dead people, right? She feels energy. So she's Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico. So her friends take her to get houses. So one night she was at my house, and she said, I couldn't sleep. This woman came to me and said, please just be patient. Please just be patient with him. And I said, oh, well, that's weird. Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah. Good night. Good night. So then she never saw a picture of my mother. So like a month goes by, and I had some pictures. She's looking at it. She's like, this is the lady. I said, what do you mean it's the lady? She's like, this is the lady that came to me. I said, that's my mother. She said, well, that was the lady who came to me. And she was so patient. Mike, I am an asshole, man. You know, I still got some traumas I'm peeling through. I'm not the best guy in the world. I could be ruthless with my mouth, a verbal assassin. And her love and her patience is what changed. And if it wasn't for her, I'd still be doing the same thing. She showed me what true, pure love is, with unhinged, with nothing attached. And that's why I keep telling you, love, 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 because love's the answer, man. Love is the answer. It brings about, and then it makes me more loving, and I want to spread the love. And it's just, yeah, it was amazing, man. Amazing. That meeting her was the best thing that ever happened to me. And here's the thing, she wasn't even my type. And now I just put a 3.1 carat diamond on her finger. You know,
nice.
Time to get married, man. Yeah.
All right. Before I let you go, where can people find you? Where can they find your work?
Okay, so I have a bunch of products. Coca Mocha. I don't know if you see it. No. So they can find, if they want to contact me, my phone number is 860-770-9893. My email is mcasanova@vbisme.com. And also we have mc@getexcited.com if they're looking for any type of life coaching. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your story, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on the show. Let's do another one about VBisme. I got to teach you that. Oh, I'm going to make you a card, so let's talk after.
All right.
All right. Get excited, man.
For now, this is the Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Leibowitz. Till next time.